Can you actually retire in 10 years, not cut back, not work less if you feel like it? Actually stop completely free in 10 years or less? The honest answer is yes, but with conditions that most retirement plans never spell out. And understanding those conditions is the entire difference between people who get there and people who spend 40 years trying and still can't afford to stop. Here's what most plans tell you: save 15%, open a 401k, and be patient. That's not a 10-year plan, that's a 40-year plan with a better marketing angle. The real plan looks different. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly what that difference is and exactly what to do about it. One thing before we go further: drop a comment right now with your age and whether you've already started investing. Because where you're standing today matters more than you think. And later I'm going to show you the single mistake most people make right when they're on the verge of breaking through. It's not a market crash. It's not a bad investment. It's something much quieter. And it costs people 15, sometimes 20 years of freedom without them ever realizing what happened. First, let's define what retirement actually costs. Because without this number, the whole plan is just motivation with no math behind it. Most financial independence frameworks use what's called the 4% rule. The idea is simple. If your annual spending is $40,000, you need a portfolio of around $1 million, because 4% of $1 million is 40,000. That portfolio, invested properly, generates enough return to cover your expenses indefinitely without depleting the principal. Spending $50,000 a year, you need around $1.25 million. 30,000, around 750,000. This is your target number. Everything else in this plan, every contribution, every doubling cycle, every income increase is working toward that specific figure. Without knowing it, you're driving without a destination. Now, here's the part that matters for a 10-year timeline. Getting to $1 million in 10 years is not possible on a standard savings rate alone. But it becomes possible, and for many people, very achievable, when you combine aggressive income, growth, locked lifestyle, and a portfolio structure built to compound efficiently. That's what this plan is actually about. Now, let's talk about why the beginning feels like it isn't working. The early phase of building wealth is specifically designed to feel like failure. And most people cannot tell the difference between a system that's broken and a system that's still loading. Think about what those first few years actually look like. You earn a decent paycheck. You cut expenses. You set up automatic transfers. You watch the account grow by a few $100s a month. After year 1, maybe $6,000. After year 2, $13,000. After year 3, $21,000. You've given up real things, real dinners, real weekends, real versions of your life. And your balance looks like something a single month of overtime could erase. That's the moment, right there. That's where most people quit. And here's what nobody tells you: they quit not because the system is broken. They quit because the system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do in phase 1, which is slow, invisible, almost pointless feeling. Think of it like pushing an enormous stone wheel uphill. Every inch requires strain, focus, everything you've got. And nothing about it feels worth the effort until the ground levels out and the wheel starts turning on its own. The early phase isn't proof that the system doesn't work. It's the system building the momentum that everything else depends on. Every dollar in that account isn't just sitting there. It's buying fractional ownership in hundreds of companies that generate revenue every single day, whether you're working, sleeping, or somewhere you'd rather be. Your money is already clocking in. The amounts are just too small to feel yet. Add to that the noise from everywhere else. Friends spending freely, family questioning why you'd bother, markets swinging up and down. The frustration compounds on top of itself, and walking away starts to feel not just reasonable, but smart. This is the fragile bridge most people never cross. The exact point where discouragement feels most convincing is the point where the system is finally about to shift. Most people walk away right here, not because the math failed them, because the waiting did. So the real question is, what is that tipping point? How close are you to it? And is there a way to actually see it coming? I want to be real with you here, because I almost didn't cross that bridge either. I was 26. Nothing special, mid-level job, average income. 2 years of doing everything right. Index funds, automatic transfers, no consumer debt, textbook execution. And my account had grown to about $14,000. $14,000. After 2 years of real sacrifice, I sat down one night and ran the math. At the rate I was actually growing, not the projected rate, the real rate I was looking at 30-something years before I could stop. I started wondering if the whole thing was just a story, something people with money told people without it to keep them busy and compliant. I almost pulled everything out. The justification was ready. I was young, I'd figure it out later. I deserved to actually live. I didn't do it. And it wasn't discipline that stopped me. It was a friend 8 years further along who showed me his account on his phone one night. He'd contributed around $115,000 over his investing life. His balance was $340,000. The gap between what he put in and what was there, that gap was the system working. That was the engine I couldn't feel yet because I was still in year 2. He was in year 9. That night I stopped thinking about my account as a savings balance. I started thinking about it as an engine being built, one that would eventually run without me. And once I saw it that way, I couldn't unsee it. Which brought me to the question that changes everything. If you could actually predict when that engine kicks in, the whole thing stops feeling like blind faith and starts feeling like a countdown. And it turns out you can predict it. Exactly. Most people don't realize there's a simple formula that tells you precisely how long it takes for your money to double. It's called the Rule of 72. Take 72, divide it by your average annual return, and the result is how many years until your money doubles. Now, what return should you actually plan around the U.S. stock market has averaged around 10% historically before inflation. After inflation, closer to 7%. For this plan, we're going to use 7% because that's the number that holds up across realistic market conditions, not just the best decades. At 7%, 72 divided by 7, your money doubles roughly every 10 years. More conservative, yes, but far more honest. Watch what that means in practice. Say you've built $60,000 in your portfolio. At 7%, after roughly 10 years, $120,000. You didn't add a single extra dollar. The system did that. 10 more years, $240,000. Another 10, $480,000. 3 doubling cycles, starting from $60,000, 30 years. Now consider someone like Daniel, early 30s, invested $65,000 and kept contributing consistently. After the first cycle, he had around $140,000, including contributions. That first doubling felt almost unreal. Years had crawled by, and suddenly the number jumped. Then the second cycle hit. The growth in his portfolio started outpacing what he could contribute manually. That's when compounding stops being frustrating and starts being unstoppable. Here's where the 10-year retirement math actually works. The goal isn't to complete 3 or 4 cycles passively. It's to reach your target number, say $1 million, by combining multiple cycles with aggressive contributions and income growth. Someone contributing $2,000 a month at 7% gets to around $340,000 in 10 years. Push contributions to $3,000 a month, nearly $500,000 in 10 years. Add a strong starting base and the target becomes reachable. The Rule of 72 predicts long-term trajectory, not a guaranteed straight line. Markets are volatile year to year. The 2 or 3 years right before you plan to stop working are particularly sensitive. A major downturn right before retirement can do serious damage, which is why any real plan needs a buffer, cash reserves, or conservative assets that protect you from being forced to sell at the wrong time. More on that in a moment. Now here's the part people underestimate. Missing a late-stage doubling cycle can mean the difference between hitting your target number and falling significantly short, sometimes by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The person who should have had $960,000 ends up with $480 because they paused contributions for a few years in their 40s when life got complicated. That's not a minor setback. That's the difference between retiring at 55 and grinding until 68. Lost time compounds against you just as hard as money compounds for you. The clock runs in both directions, so now you can see the clock. You know how it works. But knowing the clock exists isn't enough because if your contributions are too small, the cycles won't carry you to the target number. Which means the real challenge isn't just waiting for doubles. It's fueling the engine hard enough that those cycles actually close the gap. To get there, you need a 2-part strategy: offense and defense. Offense is how you expand the money flowing into the system. Defense is how you keep that money from leaking back out through lifestyle inflation. Together, they control how much fuel the engine runs on. Run only one, and the other cancels it out. Here's the math on why both matter, using the same 7% return throughout. Say you earn $5,000 a month and save 15%, $750 going in monthly. After 10 years at 7%, the account grows to around $130,000. Real progress, not 10-year retirement money on its own. That's why offense matters so much. Raise your monthly income to $9,000, same 15% savings rate, now $1,350 flowing in monthly. After 10 years at 7%, around $230,000. Same time period, same return, just higher input. Push income to 13,000. Same rate, nearly 2,000 a month. The 10-year result at 7% reaches around 340,000. And every dollar of those contributions is being compounded across every future cycle still ahead. The math on income growth is not linear, it's exponential. More income means more fuel. More fuel means more cycles running at full strength toward the target number. But offense without defense is a bucket with a hole in it. Defense is holding your lifestyle completely flat as income grows. And this is where almost everyone quietly loses, not dramatically but slowly, invisibly across years. It has a name: lifestyle creep. And it's almost impossible to feel happening in real time. Here's the pattern. You get a raise, take home goes up $400 a month. Within 60 days, a slightly nicer place, a few new subscriptions, food delivery, more often a vacation upgrade. The raise disappears. The portfolio didn't move. Multiply that across 3 or 4 raises over 5 years. You've absorbed maybe $1,500 extra a month into spending. $1,500 a month that could have been compounding the entire time. Over 10 years, at 7%, $1,500 a month compounds to around $250,000, not a rounding error. Potentially the entire difference between reaching your target number or not. The defense rule is non-negotiable. When income goes up, expenses stay exactly where they are. Every new dollar goes into investments before it touches the spending account. Not some of it, all of it. Here's how that plays out in practice. 2 people, same starting point, same decade, same 7% return. Person A earns $5,000 a month, saves consistently, absorbs every raise into lifestyle. 10 years later, around $130,000 in the portfolio. Person B starts at $5,000 too. But every raise, every bonus, every new income stream goes straight into investments before lifestyle adjusts. By year 5, they're earning $8,000. By year 8, $11,000. Still living on roughly $5,000. 10 years later, over $340,000 in the portfolio, and contributions are accelerating every year. Same time, same market. Completely different trajectory toward the same target number. Ask yourself right now, which one raise, which one skill, which one income stream could compress your timeline the most? Sit with that for a second. Because once you identify it and protect every dollar of it from lifestyle inflation, the only question left is where exactly that money goes to work. And that's what we turn to next. To make those growing contributions actually work, you need a structure that doesn't just build up once, but keeps running like a machine. That's where the 4-part portfolio structure comes in. 3 core layers plus 1 protection principle. Each plays a distinct role, all running at the same time. Start with layer 1: growth, the engine. Broad market index funds, total market ETFs, international equity exposure, selected dividend growth stocks. This layer's job is straightforward: build real wealth over time and outpace inflation. Without it, your savings are quietly losing ground. Inflation runs around 3% historically. A savings account earning 1% isn't safety, it's a slow loss that takes years to feel. For someone in aggressive wealth-building mode, this layer sits at 60 to 70% of total portfolio. It's volatile. It will drop sometimes significantly. That's the cost of long-term return. The key is never being forced to sell it when it's down, which is exactly why the second layer exists. Layer 2: income producers. Dividend-paying stocks, REITs, and where accessible, rental property. This layer's job isn't maximum growth. It's consistent cash flow, regardless of what markets are doing. When the market drops 30%, and it will, dividend checks still arrive. REIT distributions still hit the account. That cash flow either covers living expenses, meaning the growth layer never gets touched during a downturn, or it gets reinvested, buying more shares at lower prices and setting up stronger recovery gains on the other side. This layer is what keeps the machine running during the years the engine sputters. Typical allocation: 15 to 25%. Layer 3: stability. The brakes: treasury bonds, short-term government securities, liquid cash reserves, a small hard asset position. This layer will never make you rich. That is not its job. Its job is making sure you never have to make a desperate decision. When markets crash and everything is temporarily worth less, this is what you spend first. This is what keeps you from selling growth assets at the bottom to cover an emergency. This is also your buffer for the years right before and right after you stop working the window, when sequence risk is highest and a bad year can do the most damage. Without this layer, one market downturn at the wrong time can undo a decade of compounding in a single quarter of panic. Keep this at 10 to 15%. Boring by design. There's a fourth layer almost nobody talks about, and it's the one that protects everything else when conditions you didn't see coming arrive. Geographic diversification, keeping everything in U.S. markets in U.S. dollars is a hidden concentration risk most people carry without realizing it. Adding a modest position in international developed market funds, European listed assets, or non-dollar denominated holdings costs almost nothing in good times. But when one country's bad decade hits, and every country eventually has one, that layer is the difference between a setback and a wipeout. Not about chasing returns, about making sure conditions you didn't predict don't undo years of progress you can't get back. Together, these four parts work like a complete system. Growth builds the wealth. Income sustains cash flow. Stability protects against panic decisions and sequence risk. Geographic spread insulates against what you can't see coming. Remove any one, and the machine becomes vulnerable. Keep all four working together, and the portfolio compounds through whatever markets throw at it. There's one final principle that keeps the machine running long after you stop contributing. Even after the portfolio generates enough passive income to cover your life, reinvest a portion. At minimum, 10 to 15% of whatever the system produces goes back in. Here's why. Inflation doesn't stop when you stop working. It runs at 3.5% every single year, quietly eroding what every dollar buys. A portfolio generating $65,000 a year today needs to produce close to $87,000 in 10 years just to maintain the same lifestyle. Spend every dollar of passive income and reinvest nothing, and you've quietly set an expiration date on your own freedom. Reinvesting a portion, even a small, consistent slice, keeps the portfolio outpacing inflation indefinitely. The goal was never to hit a target number and coast. The goal is to build something that keeps running long after you stop feeding it. So, what does this mean for you right now? Start with your number. Figure out your annual spending or your target annual spending in retirement. Multiply by 25. That's your portfolio target using the 4% rule. Everything else in this plan works backward from that number. Then, start now. Not next month, not after the next raise, now. Every month of delay is compounding. You cannot recover not a setback, a permanent loss disguised as a postponement. Grow your income aggressively and protect every dollar of that growth from lifestyle inflation. Offense and defense running together every time income moves upward. Build the four-part portfolio from day one. Growth to build income, to sustain stability, to protect against sequence risk. Geographic diversification to insulate against what you can't predict. And once the machine starts generating passive income, reinvest a portion permanently. Keep the engine accelerating, not just running. The math is not complicated. The discipline is. Most people understand this plan within 20 minutes of seeing it. The reason most people don't follow through isn't confusion. It's that long, uncomfortable stretch between starting and feeling anything, where the whole thing feels too slow to be real. It is real. The groundwork phase is not failure. It's the system loading. Every dollar working in your portfolio right now is doing exactly that, working quietly, consistently. Whether markets are up or down, whether you're paying attention or not, each one is a silent worker that never clocks out, never asks for a raise, and never calls in sick. Your only job for the next 10 years is to not interrupt them. Figure out your target number today. Then figure out your monthly investable amount, not the ideal number, the actual number you can commit to starting this month. Then make one rule and hold it for 12 months. Every raise, every bonus, every new income dollar goes into the machine before it touches your life. 12 months. That's the experiment. See what the engine looks like at the end of it. If this gave you a clearer picture of what the real plan actually looks like, hit like, drop a comment with your age and your target retirement year, and subscribe. A lot more coming.